Still want to Despotic bring you guys a this is what you would call a build video, but it's not really a build video, but it is. I don't know if I can explain that. So let's I'll try to make these videos as short as possible. So most of you know, if you've been subscribed to my channel for a while, that I suffer from boredom, right? That's mainly the reason why you've not really seen too much uploads, because that's just it. I've just been bored, and it's not bored of the game, right? I'm not bored of ESO. I'm just bored of the classes and just the setups. I'm just really bored of them, right? It's now become like everything, like homogenization is like setting into all of this, and I've seen it, but that's something for me. Like most people who don't play multiple classes like I do, as a matter of fact, I play every class, and I play those classes well. Maybe, you know, Magic DK, I'm not where I think I should be. So that's just the issue with me, man. I can't stick to one thing. That's always been my problem. There's only been like one thing in this world that I've never gotten tired of, and you know, everybody knows what that is, right? So, but what I said was, you know, let me play Stam DK. And I played Stam DK. Stam DK used to be my main a long time ago, like 2016, right? The two-hand and bow DK, like that's what made me known in ESO, right? Two-hand and bow, Stam DK. And I played it that way, right? At that time, not a lot of people were playing two-hand and bow. They were playing sword and board and two-hand, but you know, I was playing that, and as always, I just got tired of the class, and that's been my journey throughout like ESO. All right, so what's the point of this video? So, you know, I wanted to play DK. I wanted to play DK a little bit different. I wanted to play, still staying with the theme of you know, just going damage, but also having a little bit of defense, right? My Magicka, my Stam Templar is essentially a glass cannon, right? The fact that you can cleanse things kind of helped with the survivability, but for all intents and purposes, it was a glass cannon. This class inherently is a tanky class, so you don't necessarily have to build too much into it, and resource management is not too much of an issue. It used to be amazing in the past until they were just severely nerfed. So I said, hey, you know, I will play this class again, but I want to play something different, a different style, right? You know, a different style compared to like the two-hand and bow style that I've played in the past that I know a lot about. So I went to this class, and I had to level up. Luckily, I had to level up the two-hand skill line, and it's not completely level, but I got pretty much what I needed from there. And so for like a good, I don't know, like 2 or 3 hours, I was in the sewers leveling everything up, and it was really good. I had an idea for a build, and I said, you know, let me go ahead and you know, make this build. And so I went ahead and did it. And once the grind was over, I got everything that I needed. I took it into open world. I got some really good clips, and then I'm like, fuck it. I'm bored of this class. That's my problem, man. I need a class to play. I think what I'll do next, and I do have the Magicka Sorc like geared up. I have all these classes geared up. I played the Sorc for a while. I got some good clips too. I'm not saying that's what I go out to do. I just enjoy solo play, and so I got some good clips, but it's not, there's no enthusiasm there at all, man. So I think I'll play Magic Warden. I'll test it out and see what happens. But my thing was I didn't want to make this a waste because I race changed, I name changed. I didn't have any of those tokens. So I came out of pocket, and I spent a pretty penny on in terms of time and gold and actual cash from the Crown Store to make this build. So and anyone can get this build. The armor pieces are set, and I wanted to do something different. I know it's sword and board, I know it's two-hand, and it might not be completely different, but to me, I've not played this style, and so I wanted to do that. And so let's get into the build, right? I wanted the build to be just, seeing that DKs are inherently tanky, I wanted to add a level of a little bit more tankiness because this is medium armor, right? I wanted to add that level. I also, if you don't know this, almost all of the DK skills are pretty much, it costs nothing because they've made they've made some major changes. For example, the cost of poison skills, the abilities, like 25%. It's just, it's crazy, right? So this costs nothing. It has really good damage. Has really good damage. This costs nothing, and it does really good damage. It's also major fracture, and then ransack. So I'm going with this whole thing of like accumulated damage. I know these two give major fracture, and I know this one gives major fracture as well, and it also gives you minor resolve, increasing your physical resistance by 1350. So I wanted to go with that, so you don't, when you're a medium, let me lower this, you don't have to rely so much on resource in terms of recovery, right? So if you take a look, my stats when it comes to spell and physical resist, crit resistance could be a little bit higher. If you see my stam recovery, that's just exactly where I want it to be, because all of the skills here literally cost nothing, right? And the fact that you get back, when you apply burning to an enemy, you restore 500 magicka. When you apply poison to an enemy, you restore 500 stamina. Along with that, and you get fragmented shield, so helping hands really comes in handy. You got 999 there as well. And I also chose a Nord, just for this passive. The rugged passive, of course, these two things come in handy. So essentially, I wanted to, if you're a Stam DK main, you should almost know what it offers. So essentially, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to stack, and so you get things like increase the amount of damage you can block. That's why I went sword and board front bar instead of it being back bar. You also get spell resistance here. So that's what I was doing. I was attempting to do that, and you'll see where it comes in handy, right? I wanted it to be tanky and have damage, but the preferred method for this is just damage, constant sustain, right? Constant damage. So I didn't want to be that space, the range two-hand and bow. I wanted to be up close and personal in their faces. So that's the reason why I went sword and board as my offensive bar, and two-hand as my off bar. The damage is really good, really good. The sustain is amazing. You have reverb, so you have all of these things that really, and you the biggest issues that I think Stam DKs run into is permafrost. You can literally block Dawnbreaker, and you have the ability to block. So that's why I went with Shuffle. And since you're medium, you will run into issues where you need that burst heal, and so I went with Rally. So let's get to the sets. So that's the reason behind it. I wanted to have something different. I wanted to play it a little bit different, and I also wanted a spammable, right? Right. These skills do damage, right? So the fact that this spammable might be hitting you for 2 or 3K plus the major fracture, I think that's enough sustained kind of DPS once the dots start to tick in, and then you have reverb, and of course you have execution on the back bar, which comes in handy. So just keep that in mind. And I also wanted to have a decent amount of magicka where you don't have to build into it. So that's why these sets came in handy. And like I said, I wanted to stack damage and resistance. So let's take a look. So the first set is Shackle. You guys should know this. I've been using Shackle for years. Nern, and the slight nerf to one hand enchantments. It's there, so you have to deal with it. So with everything stacked up in terms of damage, I'm really good. So I'm at around 43, 44. 44, something like that. So I think that's perfect. No issues in terms of resource management either. So we're going infused just for that max stam. Could want something else. Nern back bar, Bloodspawn 130. This will change to Impen. Twiceborn. Now this is an old set, but I went with Twiceborn not only for the fact that it gives you 2 Mundus, but it also gives you health, stamina, and magicka. And now when you go to the other set that I'm using Shackle, which gives you magicka and stamina. It gives you recovery along with what Bloodspawn gives you. So you regen a lot of your magic, a lot of your resources, a lot of your ultimate really quickly. There's some passives here that allow you to do that. So if you use an Earthen Heart ability, aside from Helping Hands where you get stamina back, you also you get 3 ultimate, right? So if you're in combat, you also generate 3 ultimate. This effect can occur once every 3 seconds, which is great because it also goes with Battle Roar, which comes in. It's amazing when you have all of these things that allow you to get your resources and your skills just very cheap. So on the surface, you would look at 1457 recovery. And when you pop a potion, it also goes up, and you will think, wow, that doesn't look as if it's anything major. But then when you look at the cost of the skills, the recovery is amazing. You will not run into any issues. So let's continue. Heavy hair, you should always have heavy hair, and you should always have light hair, right? Always. Light should always be the waist, because even though these 2 places give you the least resistance, and you don't want to have heavy anywhere here. If you go light here and medium here, this still will give you less than if you were to go. If you went light here, it would give you less than if you went to medium. I don't know if you guys understand it. This gives you the least resistance, so that's why you should always have light here. Shackle, of course, infused. I'm thinking about the reason I didn't make this legendary is because I'm like, hey, I might get bored of this shit, of this class, and I don't want to do that. But I use Shackle for pretty much everything, so I might just make it legendary. So I went with the Lady, which increases your spell and physical resistance, with the same theme. You get rugged from Nord. You get that massive resistance from just being a DK and being tanky inherently. And then you also get the 2,752. Essentially another heavy piece, right? That's what you get. Then I went with the Warrior. So sticking with the same theme, resistance and damage. So let's continue. And So this is my setup. I think I've said this before, right? The rotation has to be very simple, right? So when I go here, I'm always thinking about how much it would take you to go from defense to offense and offense to defense. And to me, if it takes so many clicks, then it becomes problematic. So I think that's a very important aspect of just making a build. You want to make sure your rotation is just fine. I'm speaking in terms of solo play. When you're in groups or you're in small group play, it's a little bit different. The pressure is a little bit less, a lot less, and so you can make some mistakes with your rotation. However, it's a little bit different. And of course, I would view this place here as a flex spot. You can put anything here you want to. It has enough magicka to run wings. I just don't like to run wings. That's just me. I've always believed wings on any version of a DK is a cheese. That's just always been my thing. And I try my best not to really run it. But that doesn't mean that you can't run it. That's just my personal opinion. So my rotation would be Ransack, then into Venomous, all right? Then you could probably go Reverb, then Noxious, because this pretty much gives you the same thing. So, and then you can just start with the spamming here, because those dots are ticking, and then once the person's health goes low, you have to execute. I think out of all the skills on this build, this execution skill, this execute is very important, because you're solo, and this game is based on burst damage. So you have to have something that allows your dots to like put players in that penalty, and then you execute them, right? Because to me, if you're solo and you're using dots, the issue you run into is killing your opponents quickly. The dots will drain them, but players are different. Especially when they're in these groups, they're geared to stay alive, and they can kill you. 10 of them can kill you with just light attacks. So you have to keep that in mind. The back bar is pretty much standard. I've not really changed anything. It's similar to the back bar I run for my Templar, and that's why I went with this one. I try to keep everything consistent. I don't change up any of my setups when I'm playing Magic or Stamina, so that's why I can play multiple classes and my rotation wouldn't be affected that much. It does become cumbersome at times, but for all intents and purposes, I think you should be fine. So yeah, I'm a Nord, light armor. You're very tanky in this build. Very tanky. You have the ability, because you're rocking sword and board, one hand and shield. You have the ability to block, and like I said before, I want it to be in the person's face, right? DKs still have the ability to block cancel. So I dueled this person in the sewers, and I was on this dude like it was just nothing. I mean, I'm more experienced than this player, so I was just using him or her as just testing things out. And I was in this person's face, and this is the way I wanted it to be, right? I wanted to play that kind of play style, and every time he went to dodge roll, I would, or she went to dodge roll, or person went to be evasive, I would hit them with reverb and just punish them. So that's the play style I wanted to kind of implement, and it worked out. The same thing in open world. I was taking this build to open world. The same thing happened. The only problem you would have is you have a lot of classes that can range you, and that's why some players might use wings. But I didn't find it to be that big of an issue, because if they're in these groups, they forget that they're ranged, and they come a little bit closer. And believe it or not, this passive here, they've suddenly made things for DKs. Where is this passive? Where is it at? I think it's over here. So increases range of your instant melee attacks by 2 meters, right? So it might not seem like it's a lot, but it's a decent amount, right? If you think about it, it comes in handy. For example, Venomous Claw is 7 meters, and Noxious is 10 meters. Like, it's really helpful. Sometimes, you would be missing this because you just couldn't get in close, but now it's a little bit different. So yeah, the health is great. I don't know what Zoss did, man, but you don't have to put anything. In the past, you would have to, with the race changes, prior to the race change, you would have to at least get 1 health glyph. But now, you don't have to do shit. I'm at 25k max health. I thought they were supposed to be doing something about this, right? But they didn't. I don't know what these guys are thinking sometimes. So let's get into champion points. I'm running tripods, by the way. I didn't really look too much into this. This is just a sneak. A lot of players, since I'm on PC, they see this. Other players on console don't really notice it. They take it into account, so that's fine. But on PC, I've noticed the moment they get hit with this, they think Siphoner, and then they do things differently, right? They start to cleanse, especially the Templars. 75 here, 43 here. I didn't really think too much about CP. 2 here, 56 here. Just Shadow Ward, especially when you're sword and board. So I went there as well. A few points into Bless. We already have Major Mending with Igneous. Physical here, a little bit here. I just had enough points to waste. Like I said, I've not really delved deep into the champion points for this particular build, so I just went with something I thought that would work. 72 into Thaumaturge and 26 into Precise Strikes, 36 into 39 into Piercing. We already get Major Fracture, but we're just stacking this Mighty because we do a lot of poison damage. 66 into Ironclad. We're in medium, even though DKs are inherently tanky. I should add a bit more points here, but there's a diminished return. The more you add, I don't know why they did that to crit resist, even though there's no real, there's no cap. Thick skinned. I'm not a vampire, so it was so much better. And that's the way I think the game should be, right? If you're a vampire and you run into a DK, a magic DK, then that's it for you. You're pretty much dead, unless it's a terrible DK. But seeing that I'm not a vampire, I didn't really run into those issues. The Undeath passive is amazing, but if you run into a DK or those light attacking destruction staves, it really comes in hand. It's a detriment. So I definitely wouldn't be a vampire. As you can see, I'm trying to make this build video, not really build video quickly. Quick recovery. Like I said, I didn't do too much about this. I just chose certain things, and that's what I wanted. So essentially, this is the build, right? I mentioned the build. I mentioned the play style. The defense is there. You do have just crazy. The fact that you have Vigor and Rally on the same bar comes in really handy, because a lot of players will get you low. You hit that burst heal, and then you go right back into offense. And just remember, you have dots. So even if you're not going offensive, those dots are still ticking, right? Both of them are 10 seconds. Dawnbreak is a dot. And Pierce Armor is like your constant DPS. Even though it might not necessarily be the best DPS, it's a spammable. And I think it comes in handy. So this is the build. Anyway, I'm out.